Hello, everybody. My name is Princey, and I'm going to be talking about the valvular heart diseases today. So, primarily, they are divided into stenotic problems and the regurgitant problems. So, a valve can undergo stenosis or the regurgitation. The regurgitation is also known as valvular insufficiency. Now, as I've drawn the left side of the heart here, I'm going to be talking about the mitral valve regurgitation here. So, this is the left atrium, the left ventricle, and the aorta. Now let me describe the labelings here which constitutes the mitral valve apparatus. Number 1 is the annulus, which is this ring, the mitral leaflets, the chorda tendineae, the papillary muscles, and the left ventricular myocardium, which provides solid base to the papillary muscles. These 5 make the mitral valve apparatus. Now what is regurgitation? When the ventricular systole starts, the mitral valve should close and it should prevent the flow in reverse direction. But if due to any reason on ventricular systole mitral valve fail to close properly, and let's suppose it allows the flow in reverse direction, we say valvular regurgitation or valvular insufficiency. In patients with mitral regurgitation, when left ventricle starts contracting, the intraventricular pressure goes up. Ideally, mitral valve should close and the aortic valve should open. But there is a problem in the mitral valve apparatus due to which the blood not only goes through the aortic valve but also regurgitates through the mitral valve. The reasons can be many. Maybe the leaflets are very weak, the annulus ring is abnormal, the chorda tendineae may be ruptured or very long, or the papillary muscles may be dysfunctional due to any reason. Now, if due to any condition which leads to the pathological dilatation of the left ventricle, what happens is that this annulus also gets stretched. When this happens, mitral leaflet can't really prevent regurgitation because they are unable to shut properly. Now let us discuss some important causes of mitral regurgitation. First, being the rheumatic heart disease. The rheumatic heart disease produces mitral valve stenosis, the cusp will fuse and the mouth of the valve will be very small. But why rheumatic heart disease should produce regurgitation? Now imagine if rheumatic process also attacks the chorda tendineae. It will become inflamed, fibrotic and shrunken. They will not let the mitral valve close during systole. So when we say the patient has mitral regurgitation, the problem is in the subvalvular apparatus. That is the chorda tendineae, which has undergone the fibrotic process in which the mitral cusp cannot close, and hence they produce the regurgitation. Let's move to the second cause. Second is any aortic disease, whether it is aortic stenosis or aortic regurgitation, both can lead to mitral valve regurgitation. Now naturally in aortic stenosis, the aortic valve is thickened or stenosed and it does not open during systole. So left ventricle will undergo hypertrophy. When there is outflow obstruction here, there has to be higher pressure to eject, which means left ventricle is under pressure overload. Right? So the left ventricle will undergo hypertrophy. But in spite of left ventricular hypertrophy, it cannot eject the blood out, which means it requires pathologically higher pressure. So it has to undergo dilatation also. Which means in aortic stenosis, first the left ventricle undergoes hypertrophy and then dilatation. But then let's see the case of aortic regurgitation. The left ventricle contracts and pushes the blood out. But as soon as the left ventricle relaxes, the blood falls back. So during diastole in aortic regurgitation, the left ventricle receives blood through two pathways. The normal pathway, that is the atrium, and the second is the aorta due to the pathology. So left ventricle is overfilled. That means it is in volume overload. Hence, the left ventricular hypertrophy and the left ventricular dilatation, it happens simultaneously. So in aortic stenosis, when the left ventricle is in pressure overload, the mitral valve may prolapse and regurgitate because it has to produce very high pressure. In aortic regurgitation, left ventricle becomes dilated, so the ring annulus over which the mitral valve was mounted is also pathologically dilated. Mitral valve does not close well, and hence it produces mitral valve regurgitation. Now, these are some of the other conditions which leads to the mitral valve regurgitation. First is myocarditis. In this, myocardium becomes inflamed and loose and flabby. In this, it cannot contract powerfully, which leads to the progressive dilatation of left ventricular chamber and hence mitral valve regurgitation. Then dilating cardiomyopathy. It is a condition in which, due to unknown mechanism, left ventricle undergoes progressive dilatation, which ultimately leads to mitral valve regurgitation. Then hypertensive heart disease. In this, left heart has to work more against the resistance, which leads to hypertrophy. And if the patient is not taking hypertensive drugs, then it leads to dilatation and hence mitral valve regurgitation. Then prolapsing mitral valve, ischemic heart disease, endocarditis, degenerative valve, drugs, for example, fenfluramine, which somewhere leads to mitral valve regurgitation. Now let us discuss some of the clinical features. First, the symptoms. Palpitation is the most common symptom. Symptoms of reduced cardiac output like fatigability, weakness, exhaustion, weight loss, cachexia are common. Symptoms of left ventricular failure like exertional breathlessness, orthopnea, paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea occur late in the course of mitral regurgitation. In acute mitral regurgitation, the symptoms are due to acute pulmonary edema. In severe mitral regurgitation, sudden death may also occur with rupture of chorda tendineae. Signs. In pulse, high volume, that in severe mitral regurgitation may become collapsing. Blood pressure, white pulse pressure in severe mitral regurgitation. Auscultation. First heart sound is usually soft. The typical murmur of chronic mitral regurgitation is high-pitched, blowing and usually pansystolic, which occurs due to the blood regurgitating to the left atrium. Now let us come on to the investigation part. We can ask the patient to go for the chest X-ray where we can see large cardiac shadow. Cardiothoracic ratio is increased. There will be calcification of valve which can be seen. Second is electrocardiography where we can see regurgitating valve, regurgitating current, papillary muscle rupture, large left atrium and large left ventricle. Then we can ask the patient to go for Doppler echocardiogram where we can see enlarged left atrium, hyperdynamic left ventricle and the degree of mitral regurgitation can also be assessed. Now let's discuss the most important part of the topic, that is the management. The management is divided into two parts, medical management and surgical management. Medical management includes rheumatic fever prophylaxis, restriction of physical activity, follow-up for asymptomatic patients, treatment of heart failure with salt restriction, digoxin, diuretics, ACE inhibitors, beta blockers and vasodilators. Surgical management includes reconstruction of mitral valve apparatus by mitral valvuloplasty or mitral annuloplasty. The indications for surgery include acute mitral regurgitation, chronic severe mitral regurgitation, asymptomatic or symptomatic patients with mild or moderate left ventricular dysfunction. Thank you so much.